Hi, everybody. We are going to do chapter 14. I haven't read since the beginning, so I'm going to be your guest reader today. We are doing chapter 14, The Great Frog Debate. The swamp was still cold, but I'm waking up. Everything looks different, and I don't see anyone I know. Where are Granny Greenleaf and Uncle Chinwag? Where's my pal Jumpin' Jack? They must be sleeping somewhere. Isn't anyone awake? Then I hear them. We are the bullfrogs, defenders of the swamp. We are the bullfrogs, mightier than all. Bullfrogs reign, bullfrogs rule. Rum, 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 rum. Help, they're surrounding me. Can't somebody get me out of here? Is he dreaming? I don't know. I'm not sorry to wake up from that daydream. It was a little bit too real. Room 26 isn't as noisy as the swamp was in my dream, but there's tension in the air and the big tads prepare for the great frog debate. That's what they're calling it. I'm as worried as a bullfrog who's lost his voice. I'm edgy as a duck stuck in the muck. What I'm trying to say is, I'm nervous. And so are the big tads. Even Mrs. Brisbane seems a little anxious today. And Humphrey, he squeaks so much already, I'm afraid he's going to lose his voice. Squeak, 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 squeak. I dive in the water side of my tank and try to float. Doze. Bee. But it's not working today. Saya's nose is about 2 inches from a piece of paper she's studying while Heidi is talking to herself. Gail's not giggling at all, and when AJ greets me with his usual, "Hi, Augie," his voice is much softer than usual. Garth cleans his glasses over and over. Mandy frowns. She looks over at me, but for once I can't make her smile. I don't feel much like smiling either. Tabitha stares into space looking glum, and when I say, "Cheer up," she doesn't even glance my way. I look around my cozy tank with its clean pool of water, the lovely green moss, and my rock. Miranda, Richie, Seth all toss froggy fish sticks into my tank when Miss Brisbane isn't looking, and I don't eat them all because I'm going back to the swamp. I have to be in lean shape for jumping. Besides, I'm not really very hungry. After taking attendance, Miss Brisbane sends the tads off to gym first thing in the morning. I have no idea what they do there, but when they get back, she tells the class that instead of our regular subjects, we'll start the debate. That's good because I don't think my friends could think about anything else this morning. I know the last thing on my mind is math. If amphibians like me could sweat, I'd be sweating. The worst part is, I'm not even sure what my fate should be. When Miss Brisbane says, "Let the great frog debate begin," my fabulous leaping legs suddenly feel all wobbly. "Let's start with a speaker on the side of Og moving to Piney Woods," she said. A lot of hands go up. Even Heidi, who usually forgets to raise her hand, is waving hers in the air. Naturally, Mrs. Brisbane calls on her. Heidi has notes written on a piece of paper. She has a very determined look on her face, but her hands are shaking and the paper is too. "It's not that I don't love Og, because I do," she begins, and she glances over at my tank. "I truly do, Og." That's a very good beginning. "But he was stolen from his home in Mackenzie's Marsh, and that might even be illegal," she says. "I checked. It's not illegal here," Miss Brisbane interrupts her. "Well, it should be," Heidi replies. "It's wrong to take a small, helpless creature away from his family and friends, away from his environment." Environment, Miss Brisbane corrects her. I'm still thinking about that small and helpless creature part. Maybe the bullfrogs think of me that way, but I believe I'm an extraordinary leaper, jumper, and helper of all green frogs. "If you were taken from your home, it would be called kidnapping," she tells the class. I look at the faces of the other big tads, who are very serious. I wish Og could go back to Mackenzie's Marsh, but since he might make his friends sick, he should go to Piney Woods, where he can be in his own environment, Heidi continues. But I see her lip quiver a bit, even though I will really miss you, Og. She sits down quickly, and Mrs. Brisbane calls on someone who is for keeping me in room 26. "I think Og is super cool," AJ bellows. "I think he should stay here because he can teach us a lot." "Would you like to tell us more about what Og can teach us?" our teacher asks. AJ hesitates. "Like, what amphibians are like, and, what's it like to be cold-blooded, and, he's so funny when he goes boing." He sits down quickly, just like Heidi did. "At Piney Woods, I think I'd be fed, I'd get to be outdoors, and I'd have a bigger space to hop around. I wouldn't have any enemies, and lots of people would see how cool a green frog can be. In room 26, I have no enemies, everybody loves me, and I can help the big tads and Mrs. Brisbane, and I have a new furry friend." Humphrey breaks my concentration with some alarming loud squeaks. "Squeak, squeak, squeak, squeak!" "Thanks for your opinion, Humphrey," Miss Brisbane says. I think she's trying not to laugh. And so it goes. Garth rambles on about how animals should never be taken from the wild and why. "But Og has already been taken from the wild," Mrs. Brisbane says. "So now what?" Garth mumbles Piney Woods and sits down. When Miss Brisbane asks Tabitha, she stares down at her desk and doesn't say anything. I think I see tears in her eyes. Has she changed her mind? Gail is all for keeping me in room 26, because he's cute and we love him, and I can tell he likes it here. It's a short answer, but she's right. I do like room 26. I like the big Tads and Mrs. Brisbane. I like my new clean tank and having a variety of interesting things to eat. Despite the fact that I peed on her, Mandy thinks I should stay because I make her feel cheerier. That's nice, especially coming from her. Richie's speech is short and sweet. We took Og as our classroom pet. We shouldn't get rid of him. That's just rude. And Seth agrees. Og makes room 26 more fun, and he's good company for Humphrey. I think he's cool, too, Kirk says next. I want him to stay, but I wonder if that's selfish. Is he happy here? Would he be happier at Piney Woods? Kirk hesitates, and I feel a joke coming on. And why are frogs so happy, yes? Because they eat whatever bugs them. And all the big Tads groan. Mrs. Brisbane tells Kirk to sit down. Saya, Miss Brisbane says, I think you were in favor of returning Og to the swamp. Where do you stand on Piney Woods? Saya stands up and hesitates before she speaks. She doesn't have any notes. I just hope wherever she says, she speaks loud enough so we can hear her. Yes, Miss Brisbane, I agree with Heidi that Og was stolen away from his home and his family and his friends. It seemed wrong to me because it wasn't his choice. Heidi gives Saya a thumbs up. Saya swallows hard and continues. But I've been thinking a lot about my life. I had a home in a different country. My family and friends were there. And then we moved here to a faraway place that's very different. We had to leave other family members and friends behind. All the big Tads were very quiet, and even Kirk looked serious for once. Like Og, it wasn't my idea to move, Saya continues. My parents said we must leave. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. This was a strange place, but soon I had new friends, and I liked this new country. I don't know when it happened, but after a while, this became home. I still think of my old home, but this is where I want to live now. It is my true home. Saya stops and looks toward my tank, and I can't help wondering if this is how it is for Og. Of course, he loved his swamp and his friends and his family, but every day he seems more at home in room 26. He hops and leaps and makes us laugh, and his great loud boings remind me to speak up for myself. Boing, 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 I agree, because that is the best speech I've ever heard, and I helped Saya, and I didn't even know it. The room has been very quiet, but there are a few nervous laughs when I chime in. Then Humphrey pipes up with squeak, 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 and my friends burst out laughing. All right, class, Miss Brisbane says with a smile. Let Saya finish. Thank you, Og, for helping me. I have changed my mind, and I think he should stay. And Saya sits down. I'm glad. I can tell she's glad to be finished. Thank you, Saya. I say, boing, boing, you have helped me make up my mind. Because I know where my home really is. There's a great silence in the classroom. Even Humphrey is quiet. Suddenly, Tabitha jumps up. Og helped me too. This has been a strange place for me, but Og made me feel at home. I don't know how he did it, but he made me feel like trying. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner, but I really want him to stay, and I hope all my new friends in room 26 agree. I agree, I tell her, and she smiles. Thank you for speaking up, Tabitha. Anyone else? Miss Brisbane asked, looking around the room. Art? Once I kind of dozed off, and Og woke me up before I got in trouble, Art says. Then he adds, sorry, Miss Brisbane. I'll pay more attention next time, and she laughs. Og helped me, too. I did, didn't I? I made her life easier by liking the mealworms, and I helped get Mrs. Brisbane's attention so she saw that the paper Alda was so worried about. It's true, I'm doing my part as a classroom pet. Now if only I can keep my job. Thanks to all of you who spoke, Miss Brisbane says. The lunch bell will ring at any moment. I want each of you to write your decision on one of these slips of paper. She walks around the room, handing them out. Boing! She didn't give me one, or Humphrey. Write Piney Rooms or room 26. Fold it and put it in the box by the door on your way out, Miss Brisbane continues. Do not put your name on it. This is a secret vote. I can see my friends writing, but I can't tell what they're jotting down. The bell rings, and one by one the big Tads file out, each dropping the vote into the box. Thank you, Miss Brisbane tells them as they leave. I will count the votes when we get back from lunch. Some of the big Tads groan. Can't you count them now, AJ asks. After lunch, Miss Brisbane says. They all leave the room, and Humphrey quickly opens his cage door just as quickly closes it again. I see why. Mrs. Brisbane has come back into the classroom. Now, where did I leave my lunch, she asks. I don't answer because I think she's talking to herself. Humphrey stares at her intently as she rummages through her handbag and through another large bag she carries with her. I'd forget my head if it wasn't attached, she mumbles. I wouldn't like to see a headless teacher. Then she starts opening all the desk drawers and searches them. There's still no lunch, so she flings open the closet doors and disappears from view. I can hear her muttering to herself. When she comes out, she says, I know I made my lunch this morning. I put it in. She stops suddenly. I put it in the car. Oh, now I have barely time to eat it. And she rushes out again. Humphrey and I are alone again. It's just us, that ballot box in room 26. I stare at the box, knowing my fate will be decided by slips of paper inside. I'm feeling so jumpy, I hardly notice Humphrey open his cage door and skitter across the table. But as I realize he's sliding down the table leg, I'm very nervous. Humphrey, don't go. You don't have time to get back to your cage, I tell him. He darts across the room, and what has he had in his mouth? A tiny slip of paper. Come back, I shout, but Humphrey keeps going. The box sits on a stool and is a lot lower than our table, but it's very tall for a small hamster to climb. I'm so amazed that Humphrey neatly climbs up the rungs of the stool, and with great effort he pulls himself up onto the top. Careful, Humphrey, I tell him. Then he stands on his tippy toes and hangs onto the rim of the box with one paw, and he drops the paper into the box with the others. The box teeters a little and starts to tip. Watch out, I scream and give my danger warning. Scream! Humphrey quickly lets go and slides down to the top of the stool. Just as he slides down one leg, the bell rings. Lunchtime is over. Hurry, I shout. Scree, scree! And I just can't help myself. He races across the room as fast as a jackrabbit, grabs the cord to the blinds, and starts swinging. Hurry, Humphrey, I tell him, please. The door opens and the students stream into room 26 just as Humphrey lands on the table and speeds towards his cage. My heart is pounding even faster than his footsteps as he runs into the cage and closes the door before anyone, except me, notices. You did it, I tell him. You did it. And my neighbor weakly answers with a squeak. I wonder what he wrote on the note. Last chapter tomorrow, friends. We have a super, super special guest, so make sure you turn in.